welcome to another episode in my Smash a Pad series. Now, you may notice that there's actually a couple of recurring themes this week. I'm actually responding to a lot of requests and things that I've had people ask me to do, and I figured this week was as good a week as any to round March off with doing a few layouts that people have sort of requested that I address. Now this one is a little different. One, it's using the Smash a Pad series style, which is using the 6x6 paper pad that I am using all of, to show you that you actually can use all of a 6x6 paper pad doing 12-inch layouts. Now, what was the request? The request was, and this is very... stick with me. Okay, so Charmaine has asked me to do a request for, I had to use blue and green, specifically bright green, dark blue, and I had to do it. It's to do with a sports uniform, but she didn't want it to be sporty. She wanted it to be girly. So I've had my thinking cap on for a few weeks now, and I finally got to it, and I think I made it work. I think. Blue and green are not two colours that I normally put together. I sort of come up with this idea. Now, as you know, I always leave in the good, the bad, the ugly, right? So here was my original idea. I was thinking about folding some papers, and yeah, I was feeling like the folded vibe, and I thought this way I can use the different colors, and I've put a circle on the page. Just use my compass for that, you know, just a rough sort of guide. And then I was doing this, and by this point I was already thinking, this isn't working. This is not working. This is not what I want. This has no wow factor. This is weird. So bear with me. We go through, this is not a very long video. This is straight to the point. It's very, once I figure out that this is just, well, not working, is I did play with it a little bit, thinking, you know, maybe I could do that. I think the loops were a bit too wide. Then I just went, you know what, go to town. Let's see if we can do something with this in a different direction. So I did a very rough shape of a leaf, and I know this photo has nothing to do with leaves. Sometimes what I'm trying to get you to do is think about, there doesn't always have to be a connection between the colors you're using. The photo you can print black and white, right? Like you might love blue and green, a couple of blue and green papers, and you want to join them together, but the photo doesn't work. Well, in this case, I'm scrapbooking a photo of my daughter. So she was playing with some makeup and took a photo, and of course I've printed it. So I could go down the route of being, you know, say truck, see truck, you know, that sort of thing. I could go down that path, and I could create makeup, you know, I could create a palette. I could do something along those lines, but that's not really me. I'm not kind of, I don't really go down that sort of path usually. So I wasn't feeling that. But then I remembered that, hang on a minute, go back to my blue and green thing. Maybe I could make the blue and green thing work on this layout, because this particular layout paper pad actually has a lot of green and a lot of blue in it. And it's dark blue. So that's when I realized, hang on a minute, maybe this is going to be the layout where I'm going to be able to throw it out there, and when Charmaine sees this, she's going to realize, there it is. So I was having a play, and these are just rough cut leaves, okay? It's just a shape. There's nothing perfect about them. They're not all exactly the same size. There's none of that sort of thing. I didn't use a die. I didn't use my Cricut. This is just papers that I have cut up. You can see I'm just doing it easily like this. So I then decided, okay, hang on, maybe I could create a wreath rather than the circle theory that I was going. I don't even know where that idea has, that ship sailed. It is long gone in my distant memory. So I just decided that I'm going to cut these up, and I actually quite like how this is working. So yes, I'm running with the greens and blues. There's a lot of the green in there, but I have got a couple of other colors in there because, you know, she's playing with makeup. So there is another couple in there, and this is where I thought, you know what? Let's get creative, messy creative. Let's do this. So instead of, I was using up some leftover bits and pieces. As you can see, I am purely and simply just mounting this photo, and I'm doing it very crooked, if that makes sense. So see, I'm just plopping it down, and I'm just using up scraps of the different colors, and that's when I pull in the blue. And it's about here that I realize, you know what, the blue and the green, this is going to be the blue and green layout. If I intentionally sat down to work on a blue and green layout, I would honestly, I'd probably overthink it. But this just happened organically. I don't know if I can pull that off, but that's what I did. So I pulled out my Distress Oxide spray. I've used it with a brush again, and I have just basically created a messy scribbly circle. That's it. There was no finesse to that whatsoever. Dried that off. Now this is where I'm coming into the blue green thing. This is where I'm pulling it all together. So it was at this point that I realized, okay, I need to do a border. So I've pulled in the mint tape from scrapbook.com. And what I'm doing is I'm actually using the Chip Sapphire ink pad, that's the OXIDE ink, and the MOWED Lawn for the green. And these two colours go together. I know it sounds dumb, but I never would have put these two colours together, I don't think. Not intentionally on a layout. You know, I mean, I guess if you have boys, you probably would, because I know boys wear a lot of green or blue, or, you know, but I don't. Okay, so the request was because of a sports uniform. So I'm assuming that her children's school uniforms or her child's sporting club maybe has blue and green. So I didn't really get into details with her. It was just, okay, leave it with me, and over the next couple of weeks there'll be a layout pop up and I'll use those two colors. So that's what I decided to do. Now, as you can see with the border, I am just putting the tape down and I'm just running the ink along, but it's not a square plumb border. So it's all crooked. It's basically a play off with the way I've mounted the photo. So it kind of, in my head, because I always do things quite purposefully, it come together, and I actually really like how it looks, believe it or not. No extra cardstock, just a little bit of ink, and it totally worked. So it's at this point that I decide to start putting my leaves down. Now, the way I had them before, there was a double line of leaves going, sort of stepping all the way up to the top. Now, I do end up changing that because I think the reason I didn't like it as much is it was a bit too busy. It was a bit cray-cray. So, because these patterns on this 6x6 paper pad, which, by the way, is the CARTA Bella Craft and Create pad, in case you like this paper pad and you want to get your hands on it. I got mine from Crazy Craft Obsession, and they probably still have some in stock because I only bought this last month. So now, obviously, sorry, gee whiz, I have been go gadget go. I'm exhausted, but I'm doing my voiceovers before I do AFL training. So Not myself. My daughter plays AFL. So yeah. So we are. Oh, this is where I'm literally watching this going, what was I doing next? So I went around the edges of the leaves to give them, to be a little bit more cohesive, because some have buttons on them, some have dots on them, but by putting the green mowed lawn, by putting that around the edge of them, it sort of ties them all together, if that makes sense. So I'm just gluing down my leaves, and they turned out, I actually really like it. Like, once I got to this point and stopped overthinking it and trying to make it bigger than Ben-Hur, I actually really liked it. And it was at this point that I decided that just a little bit of ink around the edge of that white will help that pop. And yeah, so I needed one more leaf on that side. So you can see this is a super simple layout. You can do so much with this. You could create the leaves yourself. You could use a die cut machine, as I'm about to do here. This particular process, what I actually did was I put through my die cut machine a Paper Rose Studio Make a Bow die, and you can see that there. And I'll have all this linked in the description below in case you're curious and you want to get one yourself. Once I cut the die out, then I ran it through with an intricate background die from Couture Creations. I always forget about it's not an intricate die, it's an embossing folder. I was reading two separate sentences then. So it's called Intricate Background. That's what this one is, and it's an embossing folder, and it just added that embossing to it. But before I put it through my machine, I ran some of the chipped sapphire ink over the embossing folder, and it made it look like not just embossed, but it had some ink on it as well. I'll be honest with you, I've actually never ever done that. That's the very first time I've ever done that, I think. I don't think I've ever given it a go before. I see other people doing it, but I've never done it. So it was at this point that I realised I actually wanted to put some ink around the edge before I put the bow all together, just to give it, I find if you ink around the edge of things, it gives it its own space. I know this sounds really quirky, but I feel like if it's not, if you don't have it, it looks unfinished to me. So that's what the bow looks like after you put it through the machine and fold it all together and glue it down. So that's how it came up. Now, I actually was going to use that 49th and Market rub-on set for my title, but I changed my mind. So instead I pulled out my, what are these? The Thickers Happy Life Thickers, and that actually went through really quick. Can you see where I've got that half circle sort of look there on my wax paper? What I've actually done is I just ran my fingernail around the inside of the circle on top of that, and it gave me the template of where to put the words, just so I could kind of spread the words out. So, you know, because we all put things down sometimes and go, now I've got to move it all. This is a really good way to have to just do it once. So you put it down once and you've got it, then you can transfer it, because see, you got the ability to twist it around and put it where you want it. So, and that's how I got it into the perfect shape. So it's super simple trick. It costs you nothing. It's your fingernail and a bit of wax paper. So it totally works. Now, this is my title coming in now. So these colors worked perfectly, by the way. I've actually used, I think I've used these exact thickers I've used twice this week, which is unheard of for me because I don't normally do that. But yeah, sorry about my black camera stand in the shot there. I didn't realize it was in the shot. I do have a bit of a, when I'm making a layout like this, I end up with a bit of a craft lunch next to me because I always clean up everything at the end of every single layout. It's the only way that I can be constructive with the production side of things, and I've ended up with a bit of a craft lunch going on my left hand side, and it was because I kept pulling things and going, nah, that's not going to work, and I just sat it next to me. It's the worst, it really is. But all of that being said, now I'm adding some little bits of bling. These are the ones I bought from Amazon, and I'm just using those up. I will be honest, I actually received my my little haul from Crazy Craft Obsessions today, and I got my Pink Fresh Studio bling, and it's, oh, they are just gorgeous. So I am just running a black line with my Posca paint pen just to crisp up the edge of that green line. And this is where I say to myself, you know what, stop, just back away, leave it alone. It's simple, and it's simple for a reason. So here's the close-up for you guys. I'll have everything I used listed below, and if there's any questions, leave them below and I will get back to you ASAP. And I can't wait, because now I've got this one done, I'm going to crack on with my classes for, I'm doing four layouts, maybe more. So yeah, with the crazy kit. So that's going to be coming up next week. We're going to start up with those, I think, next week. Not sure what day I actually said I was releasing those. If you know, and if you're playing along, please let me know. Did I say April or did I say May? I think I said April. Okay, thanks so much for that, guys. I will chat to you later, and have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.